Okay, so today we're doing factorising quadratics. So the first thing why we know this is a quadratic is because of this x squared here. Okay, so factorising, similar to what you've been doing before with factorising, we're now going to do ones which are double brackets. So all of these sorts will be a double bracket. Okay, some of them are a bit confusing. If they didn't have the 2, so if it was just x squared plus 3x, you would do it like how you've been doing it. So because they've both got an x in common, then you would factorise an x out, okay? But because of the number, that makes it a little bit more complicated. So the first thing for now is that these will always be double brackets which have x's at the front of them, okay? Now, when you're in year 9 up, you will do harder ones where there'll be a number here as well, which make these a little bit harder, but for now we're just going to stick with having x's at the front. Okay, so first thing we need to think about is we need to think of two numbers that multiply to make 2, and the same two numbers have to add up to make 3. Okay, so the first thing I would always do is think of what pairs of numbers multiply to make 2. So that could be 1 and 2, they multiply to make 2, and that's the only pair that they've got. But obviously if there are more, then you'd write all of them. And then if we check, if we add those together, so 1 add 2 does give us 3, so that's the one that we want. So that means here it will just be plus 1 and plus 2, and that's the answer. Okay, so they get a little bit harder. So that was the easiest one, just because generally they're all positive. So the next one we do, so x squared plus x minus 6. Okay, so the first thing we do, 2 brackets and put the x's at the front. Okay, so it's going to always be the same at the moment. Okay, then we need to think of two numbers that multiply to make negative 6. Now, because it's negative, that gives you a clue that you're going to have one positive number multiplied by a negative number. Okay, so that should give us a little bit of a clue. And then we need those same two numbers to add up to make 1. So remember, if it's just an x on its own, it will be a 1. Okay, so first thing is we're going to write all the numbers that multiply to make negative 6. Remember what I said, it had to be one positive and one negative. So it could be negative 1 and 6, negative 6 and 1, or negative 3 and 2, negative 2 and 3. So they're all the pairs of numbers that multiply to make this minus 6, okay? So then if we add them together and see which pair will give us this plus 1. So negative 1 plus 6 would give us 5. So that's not the right one. Negative 6 add 1 would give us negative 5. That's not the right one. Negative 3 plus 2 gives us negative 1. Nope. And negative 2 plus 3 gives us 1, which is the one that we wanted. Okay, so in our brackets we're going to have negative 2 and 3. Okay, we're going to do some couple more. So now we're going to do x squared minus 5x plus 6. Okay, first thing underneath, 2 brackets with x at the front. Again, we look at the last number, so the number on its own, that's the one that we need to multiply. So we need to multiply to make 6. And we need to add to make negative 5. Now this is a bit where people get a bit confused, and I know it's a bit of a dodgy one, but it's just looking at the numbers really. If you had two numbers that multiply to make 6, but they have to add up to make a negative number, this means it has to be 2 negative numbers. Okay? Because imagine if let's say, I don't know, 2 times 3 would give you 6, but they add up to make positive 5, so it can't be that, because every positive numbers that multiply to make 6 are just going to add up to make a positive number. So numbers that make 6 both have to be negative, so it could be negative 1 and negative 6, or negative 2 and negative 3. Okay, we then add them together and see which one gives us this negative 5. Now remember your rules. Okay, this, if you're adding a negative number, it's actually that you're just taking it away. So it'd be negative 1 take away 6, which is negative 7, so that's not the right one. Negative 2 take away 3 more would be negative 5, that's the one we want. So it'd be negative 2 and negative 3. Now a lot of people ask this question as well. It doesn't matter which order I put them in, so I could have put negative 3 there and negative 2 there, okay? It's just making sure you get the signs right. Okay, the last one is a special one. So, x squared minus 9. Now the reason why it's special is because it doesn't have any x's in it, okay? And it's got a special name. It's called difference between two squares. Okay, so we're going to do it the same way as before, so it will still be 2 brackets with x's at the front. Okay, we need to multiply, or 2 numbers to multiply to make negative 9. Now because there are no x's, that means the 2 numbers that multiply to make the negative 9, they have to add up to be 0. Okay, and for that to always happen, it means that the 2 numbers that multiply to make the negative 9 have to be the same, so that when they're added together, they make 0. So the numbers that make negative 9, so you could do negative 9 and 1, or you could do negative 1 and 9, or negative 3 and 3. But remember what I said before, it has to be the same number. Okay, and this is why, because if we add those together, negative 9 add 1 will give you negative 8. We want 0. Same with the next one, add together, that gives you positive 8. Doesn't work. But this one, we add together and we get 0, which is what we want. Okay, so they're the same number, except they're different signs. So one will be negative and one will be positive. Okay, a quick trick if you wanted one, you can only do it for these particular ones. 1, obviously they both got the x at the front. 2, they've got the different signs, so one's positive, one's negative. Secondly, to get from 9 to 3, you can just square root it. Okay, so if I do one more and show you the trick, so let's say we did x squared minus 25, so same thing, step 1, x's. Step 2, one's negative, one's positive, and the square root of 25 is 5. So it would be minus 5 and plus 5. Okay, so that's just a little trick for you if you wanted to know. Okay, but you can just do it the same way as what we've been doing it. Okay, and this trick only works when we're doing difference between 2 squares. So that's when there's no x's, just x squareds and a number.